traumatic brain injury. Yes, there will be issues that we have with concussion. Now, when we've got that mum who's saying, do you know what, I've read all these headlines, and how dangerous is riding a horse? Well, this little study done in Sheffield that looked at fatalities per billion days, and the good news is it's actually slightly safer than going fishing. Right? Unfortunately, alcohol and boats end up with a lot of people drowning. And the key thing, the other one is sometimes we forget about the amount of death and injury that happens on our highways every day. It happens so regularly that we forget just how much injury that we put ourselves at. So in fact, actually, if they're really concerned as a parent, sell the car, keep the horse. And of course, one of the things we have to, I mean, you know, they did talk about rats and helmets and, you know, hitting them over the head. So you've got to get them into the right place. But of course, that's one of the things that the key message is going out is helmets work, but they will not stop all injuries. And sometimes our protagonists will come to us and say, yes, but I know an instance. It's a bit like with a seatbelt. You know, wear a seatbelt, drive into a lake, the chances are you could drown because you didn't get the seatbelt on. But should that mean that we should ban all seatbelts? Just for those particular unusual situations. And of course, wearing a helmet, right, actually, sometimes when you're on the ground, I mean, this was a groom with a driving pair. She looked after this horse for 5 years. First time, suddenly it spooked, and she kind of got a hoof strike on her helmet. So when we're talking, let me just go through some of these because you've seen them. This was when we were talking about long-term injury, and one of the things they're doing is some of these athletes are donating their bodies, their brains, after they die from natural causes, and we're looking at this brown substance called tau protein, which is where we're seeing the long-term, and you can see this is the evidence we're seeing from long-term effect from multiple concussions. Let's go on. Sometimes people think when they're buying a helmet, they're buying a piece of armor. You know, if I have this super strong helmet, it's going to save me, right? So that's really how I should choose my helmet, right? Because they want it. But in fact, as the guy was talking about with the G-phone, we actually want the helmet to take the energy. We want it to destroy itself, right? And in fact, sometimes when you look at these carbon fiber type helmets, right, they don't necessarily look so strong when they've been through some horse riding accidents. So we looked at various, it's all been done. I mean, this is interesting where this was a research paper looking at motorcycle helmets. We talked about should we be pushing helmets to be more and more extreme? And in this situation, it's the polystyrene foams ought to crush. However, in a number of helmets where the wearer has received fatal head injuries from an impact of this type, and this type of impact is when we're not landing on blacktop, we're landing on a conforming surface. So therefore we've got the load spreading happening by the surface we're landing on, but we ended up, the foam showed no sign of being crushed permanently. This is where Dave Houstick was saying, motorcycle helmets are not necessarily what we want for horse riding. Because horse riding, do you know what? We actually spend most of our time not jumping on blacktop or concrete. We actually have more conforming surfaces. So therefore the helmets that are designed for hard surfaces don't always work when you actually use them on soft surfaces. And in fact, there's been a whole study by Dirt Bike magazine looking at the performance of motorcycle helmets off-road, and not actually necessarily finding that the ones that are considered the best on the road are necessarily the best off the road. We talked about certification, and I know Dean's going to be talking about that. I mean, one of the things that we do is that when you get a group of standards people together, you will find they will come up with different answers and different solutions. You know, should we be concerned about the studs we screw into the bottom of the horseshoe? Right? Should we test for that? But that makes the helmet heavier. And does that mean they're not going to wear it? And it doesn't matter. The safest standard is not the one that people pass over and don't wear. If we produce the safest standard and everyone looks at it and says, that makes me look like a Martian, how would we improve safety? So there's always the compromise that happens. Often we get riders and users come to us and say, you know, tell us what we should be doing, tell us what the safest technology is. And then you say, well, it's like It's 9 inches thick and it weighs a few pounds, and people say, yeah, but I wouldn't wear that. Okay, so you don't necessarily want the safest technology. You want a technology that's actually will allow you to do your sport and allow you to compete. So therefore, that's why different people come up with different solutions. And certainly, ASTM, the committee, I mean, you saw the sort of level of technology that actually exists in the ASTM with Dave Houston and other people that have talked today. We love people to input into us, because we can then actually work out how we can make helmets safer and make the next generation. Should we be looking at helmets that are thicker, heavier? Will people wear those? Of course, the question I always have is, the safest helmet, we can go through the technical, but if the helmet doesn't fit your head, we end up with the helmet coming off during the head or coming down over the eyes. I mean, how many times do we watch jumper classes where the kids are pushing the helmet back up every time they jump? That's not good. So fit is a huge issue there. This is a helmet just showing the styrofoam on the right-hand side here, where it actually crushes, which we've been talking about. One of the things we've done is also look at actually helmets. Because we talk about replacing a helmet, but what actually happens when you don't replace the helmet? And this is actually a test where we're going through a helmet that's been hit 5 times with a metal instrument in the same place. And we can see here that the first impact is the black line. And you can see, remember, the lower the G, the better the result. And you can see that in subsequent impacts, you can see that you get less and less protection built in with the helmet. So that's why we always recommend replacing the helmet. Let's go on to the picture. One of the things that has been done, a lot of people have been talking about football and NFL and things like that. Actually, that research also comes into the question. We were involved with the same instrumenting helmet with the University College Dublin, and this is the helmet, and we've got the 6 accelerometers in a little microcomputer on, and it measures the forces going through the helmet 1,000 times a second. So we talked about 8 milliseconds and the camera not being fast enough, so this would be 8 recordings during a normal impact.